network TV and in general corporate media will always work to protect the people that know where the bodies are buried. And for me, it's really indicative of that type of behavior when they choose to basically back out of a gig for a performer and say, well, he's not welcome anymore because of a number of short comments. Whereas for years they kind of cover up for the behavior of their own executives and some of the key people in their company. And the Norm Macdonald incident, which is still unfurling, is pretty par for the course. Now, what triggered this, no pun intended, was the fact that MacDonald decided to come to the defense of some of his, comedy industry colleagues, Louis C.K. and Roseanne Barr. Now, I've never really been that into Louis C.K. or Roseanne Barr's stand up. I just, nothing against them. I just never have been much of a fan. Norm Macdonald himself is somebody I've followed since I was probably 17, well, probably even earlier. Probably I was 14 when I first saw him on TV. And I always thought that he was one of the most underrated comedians when he was on Saturday Night Live, and then he got fired from Saturday Night Live for being too unhinged for them. So then he went over to, I believe it was at the time CBS, and he had a comedy show called The Norm Show initially, and then because of some lawsuit from a cable access guy, they had to change the name of the show to just Norm. But I always thought that this was one of the best comedians out there. Maybe it's either in my top five comedians or top two. I don't know what the order is. Of course, Dave Chappelle I think is also close to the top. You can make the case Chris Rock I think is very close to the top. Richard Pryor. Um, who else? George Carlin. Bill Burr. For me, Bill Hicks, I think, is an amazing comedian. Norm Macdonald is certainly up there, close to the top, somewhere close to the top of best comedians of all time. Jerry Seinfeld's also very good, but this guy, for me, he's kind of the person who he's like the high risk comedian because he's not in there to do the the small talk comedy that Seinfeld is doing, or just the situational crap that some of these other people are doing. He really does. It's not just the gross out humor of a Sarah Silverman. He's going out there to basically poke at the audience and give them really a taste of the corners of their consciousness that they don't really want to expose. And he used to do it really the best way to do it was by like basically going full on blunt force attacks on certain high profile celebrities of the 90s back then. OJ Simpson and Michael Jackson and Bill Clinton. He was a lot of other comedians that kind of referred to them like indirectly or whatever. He was not like that. His jokes were really direct. And when they say that because of his defense of Louis C.K. and Roseanne Barr, for which he's since apologized, and I think that was a huge mistake on his part. When they also apparently they're really bent out of shape now because of his remark about Down syndrome. You know, you'd have to have Down syndrome not to feel sorry for the victims of sexual misconduct. That's the Norm Macdonald I know. But and full disclosure, I have a cousin with Down syndrome, and I don't think the joke is that funny, but I'm not offended because I know the type of comedy that Norm Macdonald has. Now, some people might be offended. For it's very difficult to offend me. Very difficult. I guess I wouldn't say it's impossible, but Norm Macdonald has been a master of the craft for years. I mean, just look at this from his early show.
And it's important to understand how your actions affect the people around you. Oh, I see we have someone new joining us this week. Would you like to start first?
Well, I just want to say that I used to think that I was better than you people, you know, and then something happened to me recently where I realized that I have a problem because something I did really hurt my brother, so I just want to say that I have an addiction too, and I need help.
Hi, my name is Tony, and I haven't had sex with a dead person in over 2 weeks.
This isn't Gamblers Anonymous. It must be down the hall. I just want to say something. Remember earlier when I said I wasn't better than you people? I am. I'm better than you people. And I'm going to leave, all right? And if I should happen to die on the hallway, just stay the hell away from me, all right? Keep your hands to yourself.
Yeah, that's kind of the Norm MacDonald that I remember. And I'm not going, like a lot of people said, they lost a lot of respect for him. And now you see this clip of Leslie Jones here in the middle talking about the silencing of comedians. Well, Leslie Jones was complicit in the silencing of people already. Why is it that they couldn't see this coming back in 2016 when they were trying to get people banned? There's this whole issue where people don't understand that the more you empower the authorities that rein people in, the more that you give away your own power. And that's basically what she did in order to defend her ridiculously awful role in Ghostbusters, a remake of a movie that was was ill-conceived, nobody liked. Leslie Jones got Milo Yiannopoulos banned from Twitter. It was huge news at the time. Now it's coming full circle, and people are not realizing exactly how bad of a situation we're in. Of course, there's the Article 13 being passed in Europe will effectively shut down freedom of expression across an entire continent and all of the member states. Of course, Switzerland will probably be a haven as usual. People will probably go there just to make all sorts of memes or whatever, SpongeBob memes, stuff like that. I think it's time for people to really start to coalesce and say, whether you're a comedy fan or a comics fan or a gaming fan or a racing fan or a football fan, to say this is the issue of our time. It may not be as important as some of the previous issues of other generations. People like to talk about the civil rights movement. They like to talk about the women's suffrage movement, and of course there was the women's movement of the 60s and 70s, and then of course the gay movement, if you want to throw that in there. And sorry if I laugh at that, but I for some reason I don't think it's as important as the fact that Norm MacDonald, people like that, people like the creators of games that suddenly they're getting scrutinized for the shape of the characters. It's like people don't realize that we live in an era where people they fought for the right to create whatever they wanted, and now they're giving it away. They're giving away that right. They're rendering it unto their lords and masters in the government, in big tech. And they don't even care, because the people who are influence makers, according to the establishment, those people are pretty open about the fact that they no longer care about actual freedoms and actual principles. Jim Jeffries, about 4 or 5 years ago, was an intensely politically incorrect comedian saying all sorts of jokes that were blatantly just sexual and also defamatory towards Islam, for example. Nowadays, he's swung completely to the other side. One of the worst hypocrites in history. So people are saying they lost respect for Norm Macdonald. Norm Macdonald apologized for something he shouldn't have apologized about. He still hasn't sold himself out and gone full loser mode like Jim Jeffries did. And Jim Jeffries was a guy I thought was an amazing comedian in his time. And his time has passed. And it was him who killed his whole vibe. If he would have rejected all those offers, if he would have said no to the corporate money, he would have still been a comedian that many people respect, but no longer. And then you have some of these other frauds like Jordan Klepper and this new guy that what was the guy from last year? I don't even remember. The guy who was at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. Then there was Michelle Wolf, of course, total flame out. Those are the people that are being force fed to the public as comedians, but they're not really comedians. They're approved entertainers. They're basically the people that there's basically a velvet rope that they keep there, and they tell you beyond that velvet rope you can't go. And of course, in their own confines, the studio executives, the corporate leaders, they behave totally differently. And it was evidenced by the Matt Lauer scandal. It was evidenced by now there's the Les Moonves scandal, which was also a shameful episode in the history of CBS. And then they want to teach America how to behave. How about you just produce content that people like, and then people will appreciate you. And don't tell us what the fuck to do. Don't tell us what to believe. Don't tell us what your values are, because obviously the values of everyday America, they're standing in contrast to the values of corporate America and corporate entertainment America. So that's about it. I don't think I have much more to say about that today, although I think it's a developing situation, and I wish the best for Norm Macdonald and Jimmy Fallon, I guess, for turning him down and saying, well, you can't be on the show. I don't know what pressures were applied to him, and I don't think that Jimmy Fallon's the strongest, the strongest spirit in resisting corporate pressure. But he has a career to think about too. I've never been that big of a fan of Jimmy Fallon anyway, so I don't really care. I don't feel betrayed by him. So please like the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel, subscribe to the new channel, which you can see the URL right over here. I am also going to try to post the link to the new channel at the end of this video. So there's that. So subscribe to this channel and the second channel, Razor Ray live wounds for the live streams. And also comment when it uploads, and I'll see you all later. Have a happy Thursday.